Thank you for choosing this video among millions of things out there. And let me begin today's story together with you. I was standing outside a bank with $7 in my pocket. $7 that my own son had thrown at me like I was a beggar on the street. But what happened when I used my late wife's old bank card changed everything. Before we dive in, let me know where you are watching from today. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already. Now let me take you back 40 years to where this all began. I grew up in a small town in Ohio where money was always tight and dreams were something other people had. My father passed away when I was just 15 years old, leaving my mother to raise 3 children on her own. By the time I turned 16, I had dropped out of school to work at a local auto repair shop. My hands were always covered in grease and my back ached from bending over engines all day, but I never complained. That was just life. I met Margaret on a Sunday morning at our small town church when I was 22 years old. She was sitting 3 pews ahead of me, her brown hair catching the light that streamed through the stained glass windows. She worked at the town library, and there was something about the way she smiled that made me forget about the oil stains on my best shirt. We started talking after the service, and I found myself making up excuses to visit the library every single day. I would check out books I had no intention of reading, just to see her face light up when I walked through the door. Margaret saw something in me that I could not see in myself. She saw potential. She saw a future. We got married 2 years later in that same little church, with fewer than 30 people in attendance. Her dress was borrowed from her older sister, and my suit was secondhand from the thrift store downtown. But when she walked down that aisle toward me, I felt like the richest man in the world. I took a job at the steel mill because it paid better than the auto shop. The work was brutal. 12-hour shifts in heat that made summer feel like winter. But Margaret was pregnant, and I was determined to give our child everything I never had. I picked up night shifts as a security guard at a warehouse across town. Some weeks I slept less than 4 hours a night, but I never missed a single day of work. When Derek was born on a cold February morning, I held him in my arms and made a promise. I told him that he would never know hunger. He would never wear secondhand clothes. He would never have to drop out of school to support his family. I would make sure of that even if it killed me. Margaret and I worked as a team. While I was at the mill, she took in sewing jobs from neighbors. She would stay up past midnight hemming dresses and fixing torn pants, her fingers moving quickly under the dim lamplight. Every penny we earned went into a savings account for Derek's future. I remember the day I sold my father's pocket watch. It was the only thing I had left of him, a silver timepiece that he had carried every day of his adult life. But Derek had his heart set on a bicycle, a red one with white stripes, that he had seen in the store window. Margaret told me we could save up a few more months, but I saw the way Derek looked at that bicycle, and I could not bear to disappoint him. I walked into the pawn shop on a Tuesday afternoon and handed over the watch without hesitation. The man behind the counter gave me $45 for it. That evening, I brought home the bicycle, and Derek's face lit up brighter than Christmas morning. He hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. That moment, I told myself, was worth more than any heirloom. Looking back now, I wonder if that was the first mistake. Not selling the watch, but teaching Derek that he could have anything he wanted without understanding the sacrifice behind it. Derek was a smart kid, always at the top of his class. Teachers would stop me in the hallway during parent conferences to tell me how bright he was, how he was destined for great things. I would beam with pride and work even harder the next day at the mill. Every good grade felt like validation that all the sacrifice was worth it. But somewhere around his 14th birthday, something shifted. Derek started pulling away from me. He would flinch when I tried to hug him in front of his friends. he stopped wanting me to pick him up from school. One afternoon, I showed up to his baseball game still wearing my work clothes. I had rushed straight from the mill because I did not want to miss his first at bat. But when Derek saw me in the bleachers, his face turned red with embarrassment. After the game, he asked me to park farther away next time so his friends would not see our old truck. I laughed it off at the time. Told myself it was just a teenage phase. All kids go through it, but Margaret saw the hurt in my eyes that night. She held my hand across the kitchen table and said the words I needed to hear. "He will understand one day, Ezra. When he has children of his own, he will understand." I believed her. I had to believe her. High school came and went, and Derek set his sights on college. Not just any college. He wanted to go to a prestigious law school in California, 3,000 miles away from our little Ohio town. The tuition was more money than I had ever seen in my life. But I did not hesitate. I went to the bank and took out a second mortgage on our house. The loan officer looked at me like I was crazy, but I signed the papers without flinching. Margaret sold her mother's jewelry and took on extra sewing jobs. We cut back on everything. Meat became a luxury. The heating bill was kept low even through the coldest winters. The day we drove Derek to the airport, I pressed an envelope into his hands. Inside was every dollar I had been able to scrape together, just over $3,000 in cash. I told him it was for emergencies, for anything he might need, that we could not send fast enough. Derek took the envelope and stuffed it into his backpack without looking inside. He gave me a quick hug that lasted maybe 2 seconds, then turned and walked toward the security gate. He did not look back once. Margaret squeezed my hand as we watched him disappear into the crowd. "Do not worry," she said. "He is just excited. He will call tonight." He did not call that night, or the next. When he finally called 5 days later, the conversation lasted less than 3 minutes. He was busy. Classes were starting. He had to go. Over the next 4 years, our phone calls became shorter and less frequent. Once a month turned into once every 2 months, then once a quarter. Derek always had an excuse: exams, internships, study groups. He stopped coming home for holidays, choosing instead to stay in California with friends whose families had beach houses and vacation homes. I drove 12 hours straight to attend his law school graduation. Margaret was too sick to make the trip, her heart condition having worsened over the years. I sat in the back of the auditorium, craning my neck to spot my son among the sea of black robes. When the ceremony ended, I pushed through the crowd to find him. Derek was standing with a group of young people who all looked like they had never worked a day in their lives. He introduced me briefly, and I saw the way his friends looked at my calloused hands and my ill-fitting suit. Derek said he had dinner reservations with his study group and that he would call me later at my hotel. I waited in that hotel room until past midnight, but the phone never rang. The next morning, I drove 12 hours back to Ohio alone. 3 years after Derek graduated, Margaret received the news we had been dreading. Her heart condition had progressed to the point where surgery was no longer an option. The doctors gave her 6 months to a year. I quit my job at the mill to take care of her. We had some savings, but the medical bills ate through them faster than I could have imagined. Medications alone cost hundreds of dollars a month. I sold our second car. Then I sold most of our furniture. None of it mattered. All that mattered was making Margaret comfortable. I called Derek to tell him the news. His response was that he was very sorry and that he would try to visit soon. He was busy with a big case at his law firm, but he would definitely find time to come see her. He did not come. Every day Margaret would ask if Derek had called. Every day I would check my phone a dozen times hoping to see his name on the screen. Sometimes I would lie and tell her he had sent his love, that he was thinking about her constantly. She would smile and close her eyes, and I would step into the bathroom to cry where she could not hear me. The weeks turned into months. Margaret grew weaker. She could no longer get out of bed without help. I would carry her to the window so she could watch the birds in our backyard, the same birds she had been feeding for 30 years. She would point out the cardinals and tell me stories about Derek as a little boy, how he used to chase butterflies in the garden. One evening, about a week before the end, Margaret called me to her bedside. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but her eyes were clear and focused. "Ezra," she said, reaching under her pillow, "I want you to have this." She placed a small bank card in my hand. It was old, the edges worn smooth from years of being tucked away. "I opened an account years ago," she explained. "I never told anyone. I wanted to make sure you would be taken care of. Whatever happens with Derek, promise me you will keep this card. One day you will need it." I did not understand what she meant. Margaret had never kept secrets from me, but she was so tired, and I did not want to upset her with questions. I promised her I would keep the card, and I tucked it into my wallet without another word. Margaret passed away on a rainy Tuesday night in October. She went peacefully holding my hand, her last words a whisper of love that I will carry with me until my own final breath. Derek arrived for the funeral 2 hours late. He showed up in a black designer suit with his wife Victoria, a woman I had met only once before at their wedding. Victoria looked around the small funeral home with an expression of barely concealed disgust. The service was simple. A few neighbors, some friends from church, the librarians Margaret had worked with decades ago. Derek stood beside the casket but did not cry. He checked his phone twice during the eulogy. Afterward, while people were offering their condolences, Derek pulled me aside. "Dad," he said, "we need to talk about the house." I stared at him, not understanding. "Your mother just died," I said. "I know, and I am sorry. But we need to be practical. You cannot live alone in this house. It is too big, too much to maintain. You should sell it and move somewhere more suitable." Victoria appeared at his elbow. "A retirement community would be perfect," she said with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "They have activities and medical staff on site." I looked at my son, searching for some trace of the little boy who used to climb into my lap and beg for bedtime stories. But that boy was gone, replaced by a stranger in an expensive suit who was already calculating the value of his childhood home. I sold the house 2 months later. It was not because Derek convinced me. It was because every room held memories of Margaret that I could not bear to face alone. The kitchen where she would hum while cooking dinner. The living room where we would sit together watching old movies. The bedroom where I would wake up reaching for her in the middle of the night, only to find cold, empty sheets. The house sold for $180,000. Derek offered to manage the money for me. "You do not understand investments, Dad," he said over the phone. "Let me put it somewhere safe where it can grow. You will need it for retirement." I should have known better. I should have asked questions. But I was drowning in grief and exhausted from months of caregiving. I transferred the money to an account Derek had set up, and he promised to send me monthly statements. A week later, I packed my single suitcase and boarded a plane to Los Angeles. Derek and Victoria lived in a sprawling house in a gated community, the kind of neighborhood where the lawns were always perfectly manicured, and the cars in the driveways cost more than my old house. I felt out of place the moment I stepped through their front door. The guest room they gave me was at the far end of the house, as far from the main living areas as possible. It was small, barely bigger than a closet, with a window that looked out onto the fence. But I was grateful. I told myself it would just take time for us to adjust. I tried to make myself useful. I cooked meals using Margaret's old recipes. I cleaned the house from top to bottom. I spent hours in their backyard garden pulling weeds and planting flowers. Nothing I did was right. Victoria complained that my cooking was too heavy, too old-fashioned. She hired a housekeeper and told me my cleaning was unnecessary. She replaced my flowers with expensive plants from a designer nursery because my choices were not aesthetically consistent with the landscape theme. Derek was rarely home. When he was, he spent his time in his office with the door closed. Our conversations were limited to brief exchanges in the hallway. Good morning. Good night. How was your day? One evening, I overheard Victoria talking to a friend on the phone in the kitchen. The old man is driving me crazy, she said, laughing. He just sits there all day like a piece of furniture. Derek promised it would only be for a few months, but I am starting to wonder if he will ever leave. I stood in the hallway, frozen. A piece of furniture. That is what I was to her. I started eating meals in my room to avoid making anyone uncomfortable. I stopped trying to cook or clean or garden. I spent most of my days sitting by my window, looking at the fence, thinking about Margaret, and wondering how my life had come to this. 3 months after I arrived, Derek announced he was throwing himself a birthday party. His 40th. It was going to be a big event, over 50 guests, catered food, a live band in the backyard. Victoria spent weeks planning every detail. I wanted to be part of it. I dug through my suitcase and found the only nice piece of clothing I had, the same suit I had worn to Margaret's funeral. I also had something special to give Derek. My father's pocket watch. The one I had sold when Derek was a child. Years later, Margaret had tracked it down at an antique store in Columbus and bought it back as a surprise anniversary gift for me. I had kept it hidden ever since, waiting for the right moment to pass it on to my son. The night of the party, I put on my suit, straightened my tie, and walked down the stairs with the watch box in my hands. Victoria stopped me before I reached the living room. "What do you think you are doing?" she asked, blocking the doorway. "I am going to wish Derek a happy birthday," I said. She shook her head. "Not tonight. We have important guests, clients, partners. You will make them uncomfortable." "I am his father," I said. Victoria leaned closer. "Exactly. That is why you need to stay upstairs. Derek does not need the distraction." I could see past her into the living room where guests were laughing and drinking champagne. Derek was in the center of a group, smiling and shaking hands. He looked happy, confident, successful, nothing like the man I had raised him to be. I pushed past Victoria and walked into the room. Heads turned. The conversation died. I made my way to Derek and held out the watch box. "Happy birthday, son," I said. "This was your grandfather's. I want you to have it." Derek stared at the box like it was a dead animal. Before he could respond, Victoria's voice cut through the silence. "I told you to stay upstairs," she said loudly. Everyone was watching now. One of the guests, a man in a suit that probably cost more than my truck, raised an eyebrow. "Who is this?" he asked. Victoria smiled her cold smile. "No one," she said, "just the help." I stood there with the watch box still in my outstretched hands. Derek did not take it. He did not correct his wife. He just looked at me with an expression I will never forget. Not anger, not embarrassment, just nothing. Like I was invisible. I turned and walked back upstairs. I sat on my bed in that tiny room and held the watch box on my lap. Below me, I could hear the party continuing, music and laughter drifting up through the floor. No one came to check on me. The next morning, I knocked on Derek's office door. I had been awake all night thinking about what to do. I did not want to cause trouble. I did not want to be a burden. All I wanted was enough money from the house sale to rent a small apartment somewhere. Anywhere. I just needed to leave. Derek was sitting behind his desk, Victoria perched on the armrest of his chair. They looked like they had been expecting me. "I need to talk to you about the money," I said. "The money from selling the house. I would like to take some of it and find my own place." Derek leaned back in his chair. "That is not possible," he said. "Why not?" He exchanged a glance with Victoria. "The money has been invested. It is not liquid right now. You cannot just withdraw it whenever you want. Invested in what various things? You would not understand." I felt my heart beginning to race. "Derek, that is my money. Mine and your mother's. We worked our whole lives for it." Victoria stood up. "Actually," she said, "there is no paperwork proving it is your money. You transferred it into Derek's account voluntarily. Legally speaking, you have no claim to it." I looked at my son. "Derek," I said, "after everything we did for you." He would not meet my eyes. "Dad, maybe it is better if you find somewhere else to stay. Just until things settle down." "What things?" Victoria answered for him. "We need our space. You have been here for months and it is affecting our marriage, our social life, our careers." I was shaking now. Where am I supposed to go? Victoria walked to the door and held it open. "That is not really our problem, is it?" I looked at Derek one last time. He was staring at his desk, at his expensive pen and his leather notebook, and all the trappings of the success that I had sacrificed everything to give him. "Derek," I said. "Please." He did not respond. Victoria reached into her purse and pulled out a few crumpled bills. She tossed them onto the desk. $7, she said. "Enough for a bus ticket. That should be more than sufficient for someone with no legal claim to anything in this house." I picked up the $7. I did not know what else to do. I walked out of the office, up the stairs, and into my tiny room. I packed my suitcase, the same suitcase I had arrived with. Before I left, I stopped in the hallway and looked at the family photo hanging on the wall. It was from Derek's wedding. Margaret was smiling so beautiful in her blue dress. She had been so happy that day, so proud of our son. I turned and walked out the front door. Derek did not come to say goodbye. Victoria did not either. The door closed behind me with a click, and I stood alone on the perfectly manicured lawn with $7 in my pocket and nowhere to go. I walked for hours. I had no destination, no plan. The sun was setting when I finally sat down on a bench in a small park near a shopping center. My feet ached, my back ached, my heart ached most of all. I reached into my pocket and felt the $7 Victoria had thrown at me. I also felt something else. The old bank card Margaret had given me before she died. I had forgotten about it completely. In all the chaos of her death and the funeral and the move to California, the card had stayed in my wallet untouched and unexplained. I stared at it in the fading light. What had Margaret said that one day I would need it? That she had been saving, but saving what Margaret had never had money of her own. Every penny we earned went into our joint account. There was a bank branch just across the street. First National Bank. The same bank where Margaret had apparently opened this mysterious account decades ago. I almost did not go. What was the point? It was probably an old savings account with a few $100s in it. Maybe a few thousand if I was lucky. Enough to get a bus ticket somewhere far away from Derek and Victoria and this whole miserable city. But something made me stand up. Something made me cross the street and push open the glass doors of the bank. The branch was nearly empty. It was almost closing time, and only a few customers were scattered around the lobby. I walked up to the nearest teller, a young woman with kind eyes and a name tag that read, Sarah. "I need to check the balance on this account," I said, sliding the card across the counter. Sarah smiled and took the card. She swiped it through her computer and began typing. Then she stopped. Her eyes widened. She looked at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. "I am sorry," she said. "Could you excuse me for just one moment?" She hurried away toward the back offices. I stood there confused, wondering if I had done something wrong. Maybe the card was expired. Maybe the account had been closed years ago. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. I was about to leave when a man in a gray suit came rushing out of the back office. He was sweating, his face pale, his tie slightly crooked. "Mr. Thompson," he said, slightly out of breath. "Ezra Thompson." "Yes," I said slowly. "That is me." The man introduced himself as David Chen, the branch manager. He shook my hand vigorously, almost desperately. "Mr. Thompson, please come with me to my office. We have been trying to reach you for months." I did not understand. Why would a bank be trying to reach me? David led me past the teller windows and into a private office. He closed the door and gestured for me to sit in a plush leather chair. "Mr. Thompson," he said, sitting down across from me, "are you aware of what is in this account?" I shook my head. "My wife gave me this card before she passed. She said she had been saving money, but she never told me how much." David took a deep breath. He turned his computer monitor so I could see the screen. "The balance in this account," he said, "is $2,732,416.83. I stared at the number. I read it 3 times. I was certain there was a mistake. "That is not possible," I said. "My wife worked at a library. We lived paycheck to paycheck our whole lives." David nodded. He pulled up another screen, this one showing the account history. "Your wife opened this account 41 years ago," he explained. "She made regular deposits, small amounts at first. But there were also significant deposits from a publishing company." "Publishing company?" "Yes." David leaned forward. "Your wife wrote children's books under a pen name. She published her first one 38 years ago. The books became quite popular over time. International translations, audiobooks, educational licensing. The royalties have been accumulating in this account ever since." I could not speak. My Margaret had been a published author. She had created an entire secret life, an entire fortune without ever telling me, without ever telling anyone. "Why did you call security?" I asked, suddenly remembering the panic when I first arrived. David looked embarrassed. "We did not call security to threaten you. We called them to protect you. An account of this size walking in off the street with just a card, no identification, no advance notice. We had to make sure you were really who you said you were, and that no one was trying to defraud you." He slid a piece of paper across the desk. It was a letter, handwritten, the ink slightly faded with age. "Your wife left this with us," David said. "She instructed us to give it to you when you came to claim the account. She said you would know when the time was right." My hands were shaking as I picked up the letter. I recognized Margaret's handwriting immediately, the careful loops and curves I had seen on grocery lists and birthday cards for over 4 decades. "My dearest Ezra, if you are reading this letter, it means 2 things. First, that I am no longer with you, and second, that you needed this money in a way that I always feared you might. I want to explain why I kept this secret for so long. Not because I did not trust you. I trusted you with my life. But I knew you, my love. I knew that if you had known about this money, you would have insisted we use it for Derek's education, or for a bigger house, or for anything except our own security. You would have given it all away because that is who you are. The most generous man I have ever known. I started writing when Derek was just a baby. It began as bedtime stories tales I would make up to help him fall asleep. One day I wrote them down on paper. I never expected anything to come of it, but a small publisher took a chance on me, and somehow the books found an audience. I used a pen name because I did not want any fuss. I did not want Derek growing up thinking his mother was special or different. I wanted our life to stay exactly as it was. Simple, honest, real. The money grew over the years more than I ever could have imagined. I thought about telling you 1,000 times, but then I would watch you come home from the mill exhausted and sore, and I would see the pride in your eyes when you handed me your paycheck. I could not take that from you. So I saved it. For a rainy day. For an emergency. Ezra, I need to tell you something that breaks my heart. I have watched Derek change over the years. I have seen how he looks at us, how he pulls away, how he values money and status over family and love. I have tried to believe he would grow out of it, but I am no longer sure. I am giving you this card because I want you to be protected. No matter what happens with Derek, no matter where life takes you, I need to know that you will be all right. Promise me you will use this money for yourself. Promise me you will live the rest of your life without depending on anyone who does not appreciate you. You gave me 40 years of happiness, Ezra. You gave me a beautiful son and a home filled with love. You sacrificed everything for us, without ever asking for anything in return. Now it is your turn. Live for yourself. Travel to all the places we talked about visiting. Paint those pictures you always said you would paint when you retired. Find joy in the small moments. And know that wherever I am watching over you and loving you still. You deserve the world, my darling. Please go and claim it. All my love forever and always, your Margaret. I sat in David Chen's office and wept. I wept for Margaret and her secret sacrifice. I wept for the years of partnership we had shared and all the things she had never told me. I wept for the man I used to be and the father I had tried so hard to become. But I also wept with relief. Because for the first time since Margaret's death, I realized I was not alone. She had been protecting me even from beyond the grave. I left the bank that day as a different man. I found a hotel, a nice one for the first time in my life, and I slept for 14 hours straight. The next morning, I called a lawyer, one who came highly recommended, and had no connection to Derek or his firm. Within a week, the lawyer had uncovered the truth about my house money. Derek had not invested it in anything legitimate. He had used it to cover losses from bad business decisions and to help pay for his expensive lifestyle. The yacht Victoria had bragged about at parties was purchased with my life savings. My lawyer also discovered that Derek's firm was under investigation for financial irregularities. Several clients had filed complaints. His partnership was at risk. I did not take any pleasure in this news. I did not feel vindicated or satisfied. I just felt sad. Sad for the little boy who used to look at me like I hung the moon. Sad for the man he had become. I used a portion of Margaret's money to hire a different lawyer, one who specialized in elder financial abuse. I did not want to destroy Derek, but I wanted my money back. Not for myself, but for the principle of it. For Margaret, who had sacrificed so much. The case was settled out of court. Derek could not afford a scandal, not with his firm already under scrutiny. He agreed to repay the full amount over 5 years with interest. I never spoke to him during the proceedings. My lawyer handled everything. 3 months after I walked out of that bank, I bought a small cottage by the ocean in Florida. It was nothing fancy. 3 rooms, a little porch, a view of the water. But it was mine. Paid for in full. A place where I could finally rest. I spent my mornings walking on the beach collecting shells that reminded me of the ones Margaret used to keep on our windowsill. I spent my afternoons at the local library, surrounded by books, feeling close to her spirit. I even started painting simple watercolors of the ocean and the birds and the sunsets. I made friends with my neighbors, retired folks like me, who had their own stories of triumph and loss. We would sit on our porches in the evening and watch the sun go down, sharing memories and laughing at old jokes. I donated a significant portion of the money to establish a scholarship fund in Margaret's name. It would help young people from small towns pay for college without having to sacrifice their souls to do it. It was 6 months after I settled in Florida when I heard the knock on my door. I was not expecting anyone. My neighbors usually called first. I wiped my hands on my painting smock and went to answer. Derek was standing on my porch. I barely recognized him. He had lost weight, too much weight. His suit was wrinkled, his hair uncombed, his eyes red-rimmed and hollow. He looked like a man who had not slept in weeks. "Dad," he said. His voice cracked on that single syllable. I did not invite him in. I did not speak. I just stood there and waited. "Victoria left me," he said. "When the money ran out, when the firm let me go, she packed her bags and disappeared. I lost the house. I lost everything. I thought about Margaret's letter, about her wish that I would live for myself, about her warning that Derek might never change. I thought about the $7. Derek looked at the ground. "I know I do not deserve anything from you," he said. "I know what I did was unforgivable, but I do not have anywhere else to go." I reached into my pocket. I had kept those $7 all this time folded in my wallet as a reminder. I held them out to my son. Derek stared at the bills. His face crumpled. "This is what you gave me," I said quietly. "This is what you thought I was worth. Now I am giving it back." He took the money with trembling hands. "You can stay here for 1 week," I continued. "That should be enough time for you to figure out your next steps. But I will not give you money, Derek. I will not rescue you. You need to learn how to stand on your own." Derek nodded. Tears were streaming down his face now, the first tears I had seen him shed since he was a child. "Dad," he whispered, "I am so sorry." I stepped back from the doorway. "I know," I said. "But sorry does not undo 40 years. Sorry does not bring your mother back. Sorry does not give me back the decades I spent breaking my body so you could have opportunities I never did." Derek hung his head. 1 week, I repeated. "Then you need to build your own life, the way your mother and I built ours." He looked up at me with something I had not seen in his eyes for 20 years. Respect, shame, and maybe, just maybe, the beginning of understanding. That night, Derek slept in my spare room while I sat on the porch and watched the stars. I thought about Margaret and all the secret years she had spent protecting us. I thought about my father and the pocket watch and the sacrifices that connect one generation to the next. I thought about forgiveness, how it does not mean forgetting, how it does not mean letting someone hurt you again. Forgiveness, I realized, is about freeing yourself from the weight of anger. It is about choosing peace over punishment. I did not know if Derek would truly change. I did not know if our relationship could ever be repaired. But I knew that holding on to bitterness would only poison my own heart. Margaret taught me that. In life and in death, she showed me how to love without losing myself. Derek left after 5 days. He found a job at a small firm in another city, entry-level work, nothing like his former glory. He sends me letters now, real handwritten letters, telling me about his life and his struggles and his slow journey toward becoming a better person. I read every letter. I do not always reply, but I keep them in a drawer next to Margaret's card. Some wounds take a lifetime to heal. Some never heal at all. But that does not mean we stop living. It does not mean we stop loving. Margaret taught me that the greatest gift we can give ourselves is not money or success or even family. It is dignity. The knowledge that no matter what happens, no matter how badly we are hurt, we are worth more than anyone else's opinion of us. $7. That is what my son thought I was worth. But Margaret knew better. She knew that my worth could not be measured in dollars or cents or anything material. And now finally, I know it too. I spend my days painting and reading and walking on the beach. I think about Margaret constantly, and sometimes I swear I can feel her presence beside me, her hand slipping into mine as the waves wash over our feet. I am not angry anymore. I am not sad. I am at peace. And that after everything is worth more than $2 million. So if you are watching this, and you are going through something similar, if someone in your life is making you feel worthless or invisible, I want you to know that you are not alone. Your worth is not determined by how others treat you. Your value comes from within. Find your own strength. Protect yourself. And never ever let anyone convince you that you deserve less than you do. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to rebuild your life after someone you trusted let you down? How did you find your way back to yourself? Share your story in the comments below. Hit that like button if this story touched your heart. Subscribe to this channel so we can continue sharing these journeys together. And share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you for walking this path with me. May you find your own peace, your own dignity, and your own quiet victory. Until next time, take care of yourselves. And remember, you are worth so much more than $7.